you want with your person. I mean, this would make a lot of sense. So I'm going to go over five things real quick. Depending on the time, I'll say I'm going to go over five things, but it might be three of the five. I don't know. What's up, Renee? Good to see you tonight. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. So the thing number one is how you know that you're in a healthier relationship would be. And thank y'all for the taps, the shares, the likes. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your schedule um, to follow me and to be in here. And so one of the first things is that person, if you're in a relationship with you, and if you're it's going to be any type of health to the relationship, there's going to be required a certain level of activity where that person is going to listen to you, but they're not only going to listen to you, but they listen to you attentively. And so why that's important is because there was a study done, and Esther Perel talks about it, and different other psychotherapists and relationship gurus talk about it in detail. And they talk about the fact that when your person comes to you and they're talking to you about something and they're sharing information with you and they're going over something that's important to them, whether it's something that happened in their day, something that they've experienced, something that they're thinking about, something that they want your opinion on. If we're distracted and we're not really lasered in and focused on them, many times what it does is it builds a wedge in that relationship. So the number one thing is, does your person listen to you attentively? Do they pay close attention to you when you talk? Or are they there someone that's actually concerned about the way that you think and how you feel and your opinion on things? And when they're talking to you, is that person giving you their full attention? And so one of the challenges with today, and with all of the social media and the technology and all of the gadgets and things that we have, is that it's sometimes it's easy to get distracted by picking up a phone and responding to a text and responding to some other thing. But the most important thing, the most important person in the moment that you're with them is the person that you are in front of. And so if it's someone that you're dating or someone that you're in a relationship, that is the most important person that you should be giving all of your attention to. And so when there's not a consistent effort of giving that person your attention, what tends to happen sometimes is that there's a disrespect that's felt amongst from that person. They feel a level of disrespect because you're not willing to give them at least your attention when they're talking to you. You're distracted with your phone. You're so busy talking to everybody else, and so when that happens in relationships, starts building resentment. When resentment starts, then that's when the deterioration of the relationship starts. So the key number one is listen attentively, paying close attention to your spouse, knowing the way that they talk. And knowing also something that just came to mind is knowing your person enough to know if they're a busy person, they could be in the process of doing something. And sometimes when someone is in the process of doing something, whether they're writing something or they got an assignment that they need to get into their boss or for the guys or the people that work for them, they're so focused in on what they're doing. Sometimes if you come and approach them at a certain time, they might not be in the right state of mind for you to approach them about what you want to talk to them about. So to me, the most intelligent way to approach this would be, coming to them and say, look, do you have a moment or do you have a moment right now? Or would it be better that we talk later? Something as simple as that, because it's still establishing a level of respect where you're talking to your person, but you'll talk to them later. But the long story short, you'll still get the result that you want. So key number one is, does your person listen to you attentively? Are they willing to move away all distractions? That's the first thing, because full attention is important. So that means no phones, no texting, no laptop, no TV, no whatever. And so where this starts is in the initial stage when you're dating that person, when you're talking to them. When you're talking to them on the phone, that's something that you have to probably establish as a boundary, which I'm going to go over as one of the second pieces from the beginning. Because if you establish that boundary, then the person knows already what are your likes, what are your dislikes. Thank y'all for the taps and likes and shares. What are the things that you consider a boundary or the breaking of a boundary? Part of also listening and paying attention to someone is our body language. Do you smile? Do you nod? Are you looking over top of their head? Are you looking away? Are you looking at them with a facial expression saying, I wish you would hurry up and get to the point? I used to do that all the time. People are talking to me and I'm thinking the whole time in my mind, yo, hurry up, get to the point. But I used to do that to the guys that work with me, because I was in the building trades for a long time. And when people would talk to me, come to me and bring me a problem, I'm like, yo, my mindset was like, yo, get to the point. And even on phone calls, I would tell people they without me telling them to hurry up, they knew that I was rushing it because my mannerism was basically like, yo, like my when I think back, my mannerism was pretty much a mannerism of, yo, come on, hurry up, get to the point. Let's get this done. And so my point is our body language and the way we act too, because part of this is knowing ourselves, but also knowing the person that you're with, knowing the person that you're either dating or married to, or you want to have a full relationship with. Then the third thing is, if you really listen to that person, then you're going to come up with a level of clarity and understanding as to what they're saying. And a lot of times, the easiest way to do that, I'm going to give you all a trick right now. The easiest way to let someone know that you're listening to them is you repeat back a portion of what they said. That's as simple as that. If you pay attention, then you can repeat back. I can regurgitate back to them. Oh, so you're saying, and something simple as, oh, you're saying A, B, C, X, Y, and Z, and so on and so forth. That makes the person know that, you know what, I'm not only does this person tell me they love me, but they're actually seeing me. And not only are they seeing me, but they're hearing me. So that means that I'm important to them. The opposite of this is what I taught about disrespect. When we disrespect the person that we say that we're with, then we don't listen to them. We're kind of indifferent to what they're saying. We're like, man, we're kind of we brush off what they're saying. And one of the challenges with this is that if you're in a long-term relationship with a person, you could kind of get kind of comfortable with them and kind of calloused in your thought process, and you're kind of stuck in your ways, and you could forget where you started. This stuff that we started with in the beginning is the reason why you built that relationship with that person, because they were so attentive. They paid attention to what you said. You had their undivided attention. Why? Because you were trying to get to know that person. You wanted that person to like you, and you wanted them to like you. It was mutual on both sides. Both parties wanted each other to like each other. That's why we put our best foot forward. Second thing is, I already mentioned it. We honor the boundaries that the person that we're trying to be with, that they establish. A boundary could be, like I just mentioned before, that we pay attention to each other and we respect each other. And so what that looks like is, again, when you're dating that person, especially if you're distant, sometimes you're on the phone and you're washing dishes and you're making all this noise and all that stuff. That person is talking and they could feel like, yo, I mean, are you listening to me or not? You're doing all these other things, but I mean, are you actually listening to me, or are you doing all these other things? Because again, even though you're not in their presence, because it's long distance, even though you're not in their presence, they still want to know that you are paying attention to me. That's one of the tricks. But long distance can be a benefit to building a better communication sometimes, because that's one of the ways that you build the relationship with that person. Through your conversations, through the communication, through talking on the phone almost every day or every day, through whatever Google Meets or whatever you do, or that's part of the ways. So honoring your boundaries just represent, and I say this often, when you look at a property, whether you own a property or not, there's certain boundaries that tell you what is the exact dimensions of the lot that you own. And that's the same thing with you as a person. There should be some form of a boundary around you, that certain things which you feel are disrespectful to you and to the relationship that you're building, you should be able to come to your person in a energy and in a meek presentation, tell them, look, I would appreciate if we kind of consider doing this, that, and the other, so on and so forth. Because when you do this way, yeah, I find it very offensive, because I don't really feel like you're paying attention to me. This isn't being said to attack a person. This is being said coming from a place of explaining to your person where you are. And if we're grown adults and we're at the point where we say that we are in a place to be mature enough to be in a relationship, we should be able to come to each other and have differences on opinions about different topics and things, and be able to discuss it and change and grow and move and evolve and expand from this situation. Because it's not a life and death. It's not a make or break. It's just something that we have to work on to make us mesh and join together in a tighter unit. So our boundaries, are you willing to, do we have healthy boundaries? Or did you discuss the things with your person about, online, and the things that you expected for them to do versus not do? We got to lay out our boundaries and tell people what we expect, because that way we won't be so offended. Thank you for mirrors. Thank you. Appreciate you. Boundaries represent that. They just represent that you have some kind of guideline of what you want and what you don't want, what you respect, what you expect, what you won't put up with, right? And so the third thing is value. What you're doing is you're establishing a level of value with your person, because again, the most important thing that all of us can do is that we can make the person that we're with understand and think that everything that in other words, they want to be seen and they want to be heard. I go back to this I'm going to go back to this over and over again. Your person wants to be seen and they want to be heard. They want to know that you see them and you hear them. That is their most important thing. So how can I show them that? By my actions, by me respecting them, by the first thing that I discussed, by me paying close attention to the things that they're saying, and not only paying attention to, maybe regurgitating back a portion of what they've said. And then not only that, I'm placing value on what they said. By the second thing is by I'm putting boundaries on the things which are causing confusion in the relationship. Thank you, mirrors and memories. Thank you, Renee. Thank y'all for the taps and likes. Because when you value something, think about valuing anything that you value, whether it's a watch that you have that's 10 grand or 20 grand. What are you going to do? You're going to put that thing up. If you have a special car, and like when I was a little kid, what got me interested in cars, and this is just a side thing, is that when I was a young kid, like maybe 10 or 12, my grandfather, he was one of the first black farmers in our area. And he lived near a guy that had all of these old cars in like this garage. And one time I was with my grandfather, and I was walking over there with him, and I went in this man's garage, and he had all these cars, and it was all on the covers. And I mean, there was just all these specialty cars, and I'm sitting there, and I know that that's part of one of the days that kind of, that was like the light bulb went off for me. That's when I became a car person. In other words, as far as I just liked beautiful vehicles. Not saying I'm a buyer, but I'm just saying that was when I knew that I liked them, based upon being exposed to them by my grandfather's neighbor. And so because this man valued those cars, what he did was he had them in this special garage, and he had them put up, and he had covers on them. And so I went into that example because of when we really value something, when you really value something, what do? You put it up. You try to put it in a safe space, whether it's in a vault, whether it's in a under lock and key. You put it somewhere where you won't have people going and trampling and trancing all over it and destroying it. You wash it, you clean it, you try to maintain it. Why? Because you want to keep the value of what. Yeah, you protect it. Thank you. Whether it's through insurance or through whatever, but you try to protect it. So the third part would be value. The value. Do you value your person? And how are you showing them that you value them? Are you taking the time to really hear what they're saying? Because some people, they speak in code. Again, but this is part of you understanding the person that you're with. Some people speak in code. Some people are direct. And sometimes when you're direct, people feel like you're mean or you're harsh. But that's just the way you communicate, based upon where you came from, based upon the way that you learned how to, navigate. So fourth thing is communication. Honestly, if you're in one of these relationships, you want to communicate from an honest place. There's a difference between truth and transparency. Truth and transparency. Put that in the chat. Truth and transparency. Truth and transparency, put that in the chat. There's a difference between truth and transparency. Now, why am I talking about that? Because you can tell the truth, but you in the same time, in the same moment of you telling the truth, you might not have been transparent in what you were saying. And so, what do I mean by that? I can remember at one point I was married. The person I was married to, one of her friends had approached me in an inappropriate way. This was a newer friend of hers. Part of being transparent in the way that I went to her and I told her, I said, look, you probably shouldn't be hanging out with this woman. And I said, this is why you shouldn't. And I explained to her what had happened. And I said, and she was very inappropriate. She showed me that she would have done whatever I wanted to do. I didn't have to tell that information to my then wife at that time, because she didn't ask me the question. This is what I'm saying. So I wasn't lying. The transparency part comes in, is that you're fully open and honest with your person. You tell them things. And now the thing is with telling people things is that not every person can handle things that we tell them. Not every person can handle things that we tell them. And so when I told her that, the first thing she did was, "Oh, what did you do? You was probably, doing this." And she threw it back on me. Like I was trying to get this woman. I had no interest in anybody else besides the person that I was with when I was married. Because I'm a committed person. I'm committed to the relationship that I'm in. I don't need, if I wanted to be single, I would have been single because I didn't have to get none. That's just even like the way I am now. I'm single, and because I'm single, if I decide to date somebody, if I don't, that's my choice. If I decide to commit and settle down with somebody, I'm going to decide to do that. If I decide to never do that, that's going to be again my choice. But to me, sometimes and the transparency that I was trying to share with her was to share with her, look, I'm trying to show you where I'm at because I'm committed to what we have. But I'm also trying to show you your friend, the person that has befriended you around you, because you need to know who's around you. That's the main reason why I shared, because she needed to know who was around her, that she could not trust this person that she was beginning to trust. Me, I would want to know. But not every person that's around us wants to know information like that. Because information like that, what it does is if a person isn't confident, then the first thing that they think is, oh, this person's lying, oh, they're just setting up something. Or if they're doing something behind your back and they know what they're doing, then they think that you're doing the same thing as them. So that's that whole dynamic. But there's truth, and truth represent that if someone asks you a question, you just tell the truth. Say, yeah. Were you at that party? Yeah, I was at that party. But then you don't tell about the person hitting on you at that party. The transparency part comes in. Yeah, I was at that party, but also at that party, I need to let you know that, look, this person was being very inappropriate, very flirtatious, trying to get a extra long hug and all this different stuff and saying things and, oh, you smell good and all this. And then so this person was showing that they weren't up to no good. And so I felt as though it was my job to try to protect what we had. So that's part of where I was. So communication, communication is important, but not only is communication important, but healthy communication. And communication is different than just talking, having a conversation, or just having, you're just talking to someone. Communication represents that we're talking to someone with a end result. We're getting a result. We're figuring things out. We're working it through the process. That's the fourth thing, communication. Fifth thing, and then I'll be done. I appreciate y'all tuning in again, is that support. Are you willing to support your person in their growth and in their development? Are you willing to go the extra mile? And this is important. If you're with a person that's an entrepreneur, that's a person that their mindset is different than other people. Entrepreneurs, they're different. They work the long hours. They do all of the extra stuff that other people just will not do. And it doesn't make them better than anybody else, but entrepreneurs cannot be with everybody. They cannot date everybody. They cannot be in long-term, they cannot be in relationships with everybody because not everyone will understand. Yeah, thank you, Mirrors. That is a part of knowing your partner, because not every person will understand when they say, "Oh, I can't do that because I got to do this conference, or I got to do this tonight, or I got to do this next weekend." The whole time they're thinking, "Oh, well, you just don't want to spend any time." I mean, no, it don't have anything with me to do with me not wanting to spend time with you, but I have to build this because I'm building this for us, so that we can have a more comfortable life and things can be better, and then I'm fulfilling what I believe is part of my destiny. So if y'all have any questions, you can put them in the chat. Thank you for your comments, Mirrors. Thank you for your comments, Renee. Thank y'all, each and every one of y'all, for being in here tonight. Thank y'all for tuning in. And it's like I said, I want to try to get on here at least once or twice a week. My schedule is like really crazy, but I'm going to do my best because I like getting on here. I like sharing information because my goal is to help people that they don't have to they don't have to go through something devastating in their relationship in order to figure out the things that they need. In other words, to hinder a lot of the traumatic things that go in relationships, where people can have better results without all of the disasters and the end and the infidelity and all the craziness that goes on. But yeah, if y'all have any questions, put it in the chat. If not, then I appreciate each and every one of y'all for tuning in. Thank each and every one of y'all for your time. And did y'all get notices that I was on here? Did you get notifications that I was on here? You did? Okay, good, good. Okay, so that means it's working. Okay. All right. All right, y'all. So yeah, I don't know what I might even be on here maybe in another couple of days because I got some other stuff that I'm working on and I'm talking about. But appreciate each and every one of y'all for tuning in. If you don't follow me on TikTok, go follow me on TikTok. Of course, you follow me on YouTube, which is important. Happy Friday, everybody. Appreciate each and every one of y'all for tuning in. Like I always say, I believe in each and every one of you. And my goal is to help you to have a successful relationship. Who's the third person? Who else is in here? Who else is in here? Where you tuning in from? Let me know where you're tuning in from. Yeah, you have a good weekend too, Renee. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Yeah. And so, yeah, appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for the likes. Thank y'all for the taps. Thank y'all for shares. Thank y'all for subscribing. Appreciate each and every one of y'all for being here. And like I always say, I believe